Hey everybody, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Ready to Die Fighting. I'm Chris. I'm in the basement here with Nate's bike, and that means that this is another bike video. And I actually really like doing the bike videos. I like them more than any other video that I do, I think. Today, I'm working on Nate's bike. Even though it's the beginning of the bike season, we haven't really done any. We did a super short ride, and I got a flat tire. Then we did another super short ride to kind of, I think, just test things out. But we haven't done like a real bike ride yet. But his bike actually needed quite a bit of tweaking. It's a pretty new bike. I just bought it last summer for him. He did ride it a lot, but it's not like thousands of miles. But bikes just need maintenance for them to work properly, to be efficient, to make them last, to be comfortable, all that stuff. There's just certain things you have to do to them. And this bike, after a season of riding and a season of being in storage, needed some tweaking. One of the things that needs to happen is some of the cable and housing needs to be replaced. In this particular video, I am going to replace this cable. The housing itself seems fine. And really the only reason why I'm replacing it, it actually doesn't appear to be damaged or anything, but it was cut too short for my liking. If you look down here, these are mechanical disc brakes, and there's a little lever here that pivots. And if this is cut too short in the neutral non-engaged position, it can get pulled like that. And at least in the bike shop where I work, that's not how we like things to be. We want it to be free and with the full range of motion that it can have. And so wanted to have all that room there. So it's, that's how we set them up. So maybe that's a matter of personal preference. I don't know, but the bike from the shop where I bought it had it, and it was pulled in a little tight, and the cable was too short for me to loosen it up. So I just cut it, and I'm going to replace it. It's pretty cheap. You know what? I didn't even check the price. I think it was $3. $3 for a new cable. So, and it's a pretty easy job to do. So I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Not a big deal. So that's what I'm going to replace here. And I noticed that when his brakes were rubbing, if I spun, what was that squeak? If I spun the brakes, we were getting a lot of rubbing noises, like, so that means that the brakes are rubbing and grinding. It's going to wear them down faster. It's going to make your bike less efficient. It's going to be, you're basically working against the brakes. So that was one of the things that needed to be done. So yeah, let's get to it. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos, if they're helpful to you. And we'll do this. It'll be quick, hopefully. For this particular job, you don't need very much as far as tools are concerned. You only need some cutters for the cable itself. And then you need some sort of hex tool. Is more than likely hex. I mean, I guess maybe it could be a Phillips or something. It seems like I've only seen some sort of hex or Allen key or whatever. But whatever tool you need to loosen that cable down there. Additionally, you may need some crimpers or needle nose, depending on what kind of cutters you have. Some of them, the Part Tool version has a crimper built in. The Pedros does not. So just depends on what you have. You may need it. So in my case, I do. And then you need the actual cable itself. And I've got a shifter cable and a brake cable here because I'm actually going to be changing both of them, but that'll be a different video. And so you want to make sure you have the correct cable. And then these little crimp ends, which really are optional. Like, it'll work without it, but this looks nice, keeps it from unraveling and fraying, which I'll show you. His shifter cable over here is fraying. Can you see that? Right here. Get down some. Can you see how this cable is frayed? I might have to zoom in closer so you can see it. But so these little end caps, I like to have nice colorful ones, but they will prevent that from happening. And once that starts to happen, if it's just a little bit, not a big deal. But once it starts to go up too high, you're starting to run into trouble. You don't want that. the integrity of the cable is then compromised. And this is your brakes we're talking about. This is the thing that's going to stop you. So we don't want that. All right. So let's get to this. Let's start down here. All right. So first things first is you just want to loosen that up, which I've already done, and I've taken that out. So there you go. So you would just use your tool to loosen it up so that this will come out. You may need to cut it if it's got the little end cap on there because it will just slide in. There we go. Next thing is you want to go up to the brake lever itself. Let me just raise this up some so you guys can see better. See what I'm doing. Sorry. Probably should have done that right out the gate. All right. Okay, so you want to go up to the brake lever, whatever you want to call it, and make sure you have the right one. And we're just going to loosen that up. Just going to pull it out like that. And so, there. Now, you just pull the lever back all the way. And here's, I don't know what you call this. It's just the thingy. Can you see it? Let me make another adjustment here and make this easier to see. There. Is that better? All right. So here's this guy like that. And you can just pull that out however you need to make it easy to get this out. So it's like a little barrel here. And you know what I can do to make this easier to show you? I could just loosen it up, right? Let's do this. All right, so there you go. So I just loosened that up some. That bolt there. And so it's just a barrel attached to the end here. And see how that goes in? So you just pop it in and out. Basically like that. And so that's how it's held in place. Does that make sense? Are you sure? And then when you're ready to take it out, you just lift that out as much as you need to. Loosen things up. You can actually, I'm making this harder than I need to. There's a opening here. And so you can turn those so that the openings align. And that makes it even easier. You can just take it out now without any problem. So now, we're just going to pull it out. There. Now it's done. Well, I mean, it's not done, but we're done with that part. Old cable is out. It's a smart idea to inspect your housing, make sure it's not damaged or kinked or, you know, anything like that. This seems to be fine to me. Make sure you have a ferrule at the end. That's this little, I don't know if it'll come off. It's just like a little, sometimes it's plastic or metal or whatever. It's just it's kind of like a little end piece. So make sure that's on there. And so I wanted to show you guys this too. Shifter cable and brake cable look very similar, but they are different thicknesses. The shifter cable is much thinner than the brake cable, and also the ends are different. So make sure you're using the correct one. They're similar, but they are different. Get the right one. So the brake cable is going to be your thicker one. And so now, I just had that coiled up, so I just unwound it some. So now we're just going to do basically the exact opposite. I'm going to take the end, and I'm going to slide it into the housing. Some people do put a few drops of oil inside the housing. I don't feel that's necessary typically. If you're doing, say, if this is, say, like an older bike or older cable, and you're not replacing the housing, say your brake is it's kind of sticky, it's not sliding all that well, but it's not damaged or rusty or anything like that, or maybe you just don't have the money or resources to go and get new cable, then you could put a couple of drops of oil in there. But with a new cable and the housing itself is fine, it's a newer bike, I don't feel like it's necessary. That's what for. And so yeah, you just slide that in. And now just replace it just like how we were before. So I'm just going to open that up, put that in there, and there we go. And I don't know if you guys saw what I was talking about here, the adjustment here that I made. So this adjuster here, it's got a slot in it right there. And so if I turn it that way, it's like, so you can just lock it in. That makes it a bit easier. A lot of times I don't bother, to be honest, because it's not that hard to just do it as it is. But if you are struggling with it, if it's being difficult, just go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to, I guess I need to drop this back down, don't I? Actually, before I do that, so I'm going to adjust this. And so I typically will turn it all the way in and then back it up one full revolution. So I look for that seam or that gap, wherever that is, on the barrel here, and I just loosen it one full turn. So it's starting right here, and then I'm just going to turn to loosen it up till it gets back to that same spot. And then tighten this ring accordingly, so that kind of keeps everything in place. And so that's a good starting spot. What this does is it shortens and lengthens the cable, so that once it's all hooked up, so when your brakes start to wear down, or if the feel isn't quite right, or whatever, if you need to make an adjustment, you can adjust the tension with this. So that's what that's for. But that's a good starting point for it for right now. So let's bring you guys down here if I can. All right. Can you see? Hopefully. So now what I'm going to do is I don't know how visible. Let me see. Let me get closer. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to make this quick, but I want to make sure that you can see and that I'm being clear. You know, what's the point in making the video if you can't see what I'm doing? There we go. Is that better? You can see what I'm doing now? All right. So now I am going to just, so this is the part that I was talking about. There's a bolt here, and you just want to get that back in there. However it clips in, like so. Ah, my hair's caught. And so now I want that to be able to move freely. I'm going to pull it taut so that it's good. And now I'm just going to, but I'm leaving that free so it can move the full range. And now I'm just going to tighten it down. Don't have a torque wrench, so I'm just gonna go good to me. All right, now when I pull this, that feels pretty good. Let's turn it. Oh, some of the rubbing is back. Yeah, you got a little noise again. I find that kind of happens. You adjust everything, and then you got to squeeze the brakes a few times, keep trying it, and it's kind of like things kind of have to just settle in place a little bit. But now it seems fine. And so when I want it to be in such a way that, you know, just the lightest touch of the brakes causes this to move, and you can see it's moving just ever so slightly when I touch the brake. And so to me, that feels really good. So now, I'm going to make sure it's nice and tight. It isn't going to come loose. Yep. And I like to cut, I like to give it some room. You know, I don't cut it super, super short. Like, usually I kind of just go visually, like to just kind of like an endpoint around an inch or so. So to me, right there is a good stopping point. Gives enough room where if I want to go back and adjust this later, I have some room to play. And, but it's short enough where it's not in the way. So now, I'm going to pick a color here for little Natey Nate. He likes blue. I like to have a bit more pop, personally. So I've got blue, silver, black. You know, I guess I'll give him the blue. Let's go with blue. And you can use needle nose for this. These are crimpers for more like for a electronic stuff, really. Back in the day, I used to do car audio installations, and this is what I use for that. Get that to stick on there. So now I'm just going to stick it in and squeeze. Crimp that on there. And that's it. Brake cable is replaced. Whether you're doing the back or the front, same process. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to point out that make sure you got that nice and tight as well. That's another barrel adjuster. And so that one I've got tight all the way down. I did that before I started rolling. I forgot to mention it though. Make sure you tighten that all the way down. You don't have it real loose. You can maybe back it off a little bit if you want, but kind of the same idea up here on this one. But same process, rear or front brakes. The shifter cable is actually quite similar as well. That'll be a separate video though. The difference is really just how you connect the cable inside the shifter. So, thanks for watching. Oh, that was longer than I meant for it to be, but it is what it is. Like and subscribe if this was helpful to you, and I will catch you guys in the next video.